of January the 16th of the rally. And it's a very poor job of dubbing. It's almost as bad as what I do. And then I worked on this a half an hour at a time. And it's interesting. Some of the correspondence is between Scott Brown and in-house. There is one there of a survey done of which channels people watch, and there's definitely editorial control here, saying their comment is that Channel 8 isn't watched. So that's good. That's good for us. That's good for our lawsuit. And then there's there's a letter here from Ben Wiles. He does the dumbest things. He has 3 copies of the same letter in the same mailing. In general, I think they did a good job on the discovery. There are many, many newspaper clippings that we did not have. It is too bad that some of the newspaper clippings, one of them, I think it's an Ardsley paper, but they certainly should identify the paper. There are many letters from the supervisors of Eastchester, Tuckahoe, Bronxville, Hastings, Dobbs Ferry, Greenburg, Rye, about a protest to TCI for doing this, and how many people hate them for doing this. This is a set of Scott Brown letters, which, and I know some of the letters are missing because I wrote a letter of praise to TCI, to the city of White Plains, praising TCI for their performance. But I didn't know at that time, just as the rest of us didn't know at that time, that they were cheating us at that time out of public access Channel 8 system-wide. Nobody ever dreamed that anybody could be that crooked. And these are requests for purchase orders for email, and the equipment in there cost $55,000. And here is, this is really very telling. This is to Mary Magarelli from Bob Sig, and it's research and strategy, and this is the survey that I told you they did. And this is to Scott Brown from Mary Magarelli. It appears that Channel 8 is seldom to never watch, but customers feel it is more important to offer the channel than some other channels. I still believe between 14, 15, and 16 we will be fine. Something people don't watch 8. They just appear to think it is a socially responsible channel to offer. And then Mary Magarelli says, let's launch history. That means take away system-wide Channel 8. I'm on 11 different cable systems, and this is the only cable company who did anything as egregious as that. So that's going to help my lawsuit a lot, because that's editorial control. You can't take off public access just because you think that people don't watch it. They're entirely wrong about that. People do watch public access. We know that from the request for the Happy Book, and we know that for the number of people who call us, and we know that from walking down the street and people telling us that they watch the program. Here's a whole lot of internal correspondence about the bad decision, and it looks to me like it came from Scott Brown. And was certainly pushed along by him. And they also, I saw also an indication of pressure from Gannett, which I have alleged all along. And these are some reports. And there's piles and piles of protesting letters from the supervisors of the 20 towns who allowed this crooked company to be their cable operator. Now we come to these. These are franchises. These are the franchise agreements between a municipality, say for instance, Tuckahoe and TCI. This happens to be North Castle. Well, how many of those are there? Well, there are quite a few. So I went through them and I read the public access commitments. I also read in there that TCI has to indemnify the town about lawsuits and damage suits, and $5 million, $2 million, and $1 million are the amounts. So let's see, where are we now? We're still at franchises. Now we have the temporary franchising where the city of Rye, for instance, and the village of Scarsdale refuse to sign the franchise agreement with TCI, and I think rightfully so, because you see the towns that did sign it were aghast that they were doing away with system-wide Channel 8 public access. This one, for instance, is a temporary operating authority with the village of Scarsdale, and Rye is in there, and Rye Brook. And so Scarsdale and Rye Brook and Rye should not sign these franchise agreements until TCI is honest with them, instead of deceiving them as in the cases of Greenberg and Eastchester and Dobbs Ferry and Archley and Irvington. The whole day on TCI. That was Tuesday. Yesterday, Wednesday, there was a lot of time spent on TCI in the morning. More of that. And finally, the job is finished. Now, I have a lot of questions, things that weren't included, things that were included several times, and missing parts. And I still want to inspect the premises. I want to inspect the premises of Mamaroneck and see for myself what's in the public access file. And I will ask Judge Fox again to do that. Now is that tomorrow at 2 p.m. there's a conference before Judge Fox. This will be all about discovery. And here are about 7 pages already of notes that I've written down to discuss with Judge Fox. One doesn't get a chance, though, to discuss things with Judge Fox. He's good, but he's in and out too fast. And grossly crooked thing that Malone, Magnus, and TCI and all of the defendants whose names you see there are doing to take away public access Channel 8, which they did Tuesday night, May 1st, it was gone. To do that and say that the municipalities will cablecast the programs, and the municipalities say there's no way they can cablecast them. It is so crooked. But it makes my lawsuit that much easier. They did it. They broke all the laws. You know the story about the home addresses. Tomorrow there's a conference, Friday, May the 3rd at 2 p.m. with Judge Fox. This is the first thing that's going to be taken up is the home addresses. We each had to write a 2-page double-space letter brief, me wanting the home addresses that I was given, the right to have them, and TCI covering up, running away. So Judge Fox does not allow an answer to these letters except orally, and that would be in court. So here's Glendora's oral reply for tomorrow to Judge Mark D. Fox. Glendora cannot see that Mr. Wiles' defendants show cause why they should not produce the home addresses Judge Connor ordered on February the 26th and that Judge Fox ordered on March 29th. The rules are there to be enforced. Why do we have rules if defendants are allowed to eschew them? What Mr. Wiles calls confrontational is Glendora's fighting for her rights, that he and Malone and Magnus and TCI at all trample, and that this court is here to enforce. Judge Connor was wrong to be manipulated over the phone by Ben Wiles, who ought to know enough not to do that. Even a pro se knows that. The Glendora TV report on the Judge Connor telephone conversation to Glendora running away from the case was censored by TCI Tuesday night. Yes, TCI turned off the audio from 9:06 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and censored the Judge Connor report. In front of everybody. Just when the program was presenting to you that Judge Connor came to the phone, this is Judge Connor, immediately the audio was turned down. There was no excuse for Judge Connor not to enforce his order. It is the only thing he gave me. A personal business address is a deception. It doesn't even make common sense. It has the same ridiculous ring as armed and dangerous. Remember that, folks? Armed and dangerous? What are defendants afraid of? What have they done wrong? Why are they paranoid? Who is out to get them? Why are they fugitives? Why does Mr. Wiles and defendants defy two courts? Glendora already has Mr. Miles' home address. Not only is this defiance of two courts, but it is cowardly and it is unmanly. Mr. Wiles' last paragraph, his page 2, is hysteria, it's puerile, it is as desperate as his armed and dangerous. It is against the rules to write single-spaced in your order for a 2-page double-spaced letter brief. In his single-spaced footnote, Mr. Wiles overrules Judge Connor. Is this court going to tolerate such arrogance? So I hope to get a chance to read that to Judge Fox tomorrow in his courtroom. And I hope that he rules that I have the home addresses as Judge Connor gave me. Now, we are up to the last item to discuss with you this week, and that's the second lawsuit against TCI Glendora versus Telecommunications Incorporated. The amount of damages Glendora will sue for is $500 million. And the names of the defendants are, the first one I just told you, Telecommunications. This is Glendora Plaintiff versus Telecommunications Incorporated. Bob Magnus, John C. Malone, Fred A. Vieira, Brendan B. Clausen, J.C. Sparkman, Stephen M. Brett, Peter R. Barton, Larry E. Romrell, Barry P. Marshall, Gary Bracken, Bernard W. Shotters, Robert N. Thompson, Jerome H. Kern, not the composer, he's a lawyer for TCI and a director. R. E. Turner, that's Ted Turner, Richard Wadman, Miles Rich, Brenda Cherry, tape operator, and any other Jane or John Doe on duty, April the 30th, 1996, from 4 p.m. to midnight at 609 Center Street, Mamaroneck, New York. Defendants. And it's going to start out under penalty of perjury. Glendora swears the following to be true. April 30th, 1996, Tuesday, defendant censored Glendora's TV program at 9:06 p.m. on Channel 8, Westchester. Who are these people? Brett is Executive Vice President and General Counsel and Secretary of the company. Vieira is Executive Vice President of the company, Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer of International. Peter R. Burton is Executive Vice President of the company since January of '94, and President and Executive Vice President of Telecommunications Incorporated Communications. They have made a mess of this company. Brendan R. Clauston is Executive Vice President of the company since 1994. Larry Romrell is Executive Vice President of the company since 1994, President of TCI Technology. Barry P. Marshall is Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of TCI Communications, and he's the officer of TCI Cable Management Corporation. And his Cable Management Corporation, of course, coming from higher up, that did away with Channel 8 and broke all the laws. Gary K. Bracken, Comptroller of TCI Communications, and Bernard W. Schotters, appointed Senior Vice President of Finance and Treasurer, and it is my allegation that John Malone promised the shareholders a whole lot that he didn't deliver, and so this ultimately put the pressure on Malone to take away public access, and thus breaking the law. Robert N. Thompson is the Senior Vice President of TCI Incorporated Communications. He's Vice President of Government Affairs, so he certainly knows better. And J.C. Parkman, Executive Vice President of the company, but he retired in March of '95. The second lawsuit against these robbers of public access. Here are the United States Marshal forms where the United States Marshals would do the service. Complaint has to be written. It will be very brief. The question will be resolved whether we'll do it by order to show cause, affidavit, and memorandum of law, or do we just take the complaint in the inform of papyrus to the pro se clerk in Manhattan, and the pro se clerk will make out the summons and will give it to a judge. And we'll see what the judge will do with it. Wild says that that TCI made 8 videotapes of my program. You tell me that this is not editorial control. What was their reason? And but they did not produce these videotapes as discovery. And so I called up and left a message with Wiles and said I wanted those videotapes. I want to see if what they have is really a copy of what I did. Or did they edit it in any way? My PC-310 Canon copy machine broke down. Some cellophane, black cellophane, fell down from the top. Therefore, the paper couldn't go through. It was being copied upon, and a little clip fell down. So off it has to go to Jamestown, New Jersey. It'll cost $125, no matter what's wrong with it. And it will take 4 or 5 weeks. Showing her pictures to Annette. And Annette says, these pictures don't do you justice. And Dorothy says, it isn't justice I need, it's mercy. I just put these things away, and then I realized I hadn't told you that I have a home address for Robert A. Naify, N-A-I-F-Y, which TCI refuses to give me any address, business address, but I think I found his home address. And then we can make out this one of these Marshall 285 forms and have him served there. And then I think I found an address for Mr. O'Brien, who reportedly is deceased, but they have refused every demand to offer proof of his demise. I was just informed by telephone by my calling the appellate term First Judicial District down in Manhattan, that Judge Ostro and those other judges, Friedman, and a third one, a brand new one, ruled in favor of ABC, Michael Gelman, and that crooked Chris DiGiulio. That it's okay for Michael Gelman to steal Glendora's videotapes. It's okay for him not to return them. That's what that court stood up for. And it's okay for their lawyer, Christopher DiGiulio, not to file his brief on time and to let the whole thing go for 8 months and then all of a sudden appear on the screen. So they ruled that it's okay to break all the court rules. And we don't even get a copy of the decision. We don't know why they ruled the way they did, what basis they had for it, what law they had for it. But it's another crooked court. Crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. That's the appellate term, Supreme Court of the State of New York, First Judicial District, and that covers Manhattan. I say if these people can't run the courts the way they should be run, then get out and get somebody in there who can. And the courts do just what I told you they do. They prey upon your problems. You have a problem, it's prey for them. It's money for them. It's prey, P-R-E-Y, for them. It's money for them. It's money for the lawyers. Whoop-de-doo, another lying lawyer. I get paid for doing the best job I can lying. And it's money for the judges. They get paid all the time. But what is it for you? It's heartache and loss of life and loss of hours and loss of peace and loss of fun and loss of recreation. And then they take from February the 5th to May the 5th, that's 3 months to make their decision. Isn't this great? Why are we letting the courts get away with this rubbish? Get rid of them. I didn't lose. They lost. They lost before God, because every one of them has to stand before God. And I spent $1,000 on this and 800 hours and over $200,000 in legal labor just to stand up for what is right and what is truthful and what is honest. My property returned to me. And this court stood up for stealing my property. For Michael Gelman, who is the producer, I don't know if he still is or not, for Live with Regis. It's okay for him to steal somebody's videotape and to lie about it for years, it was 6 years, and to lie about it. And that's what we have in court today. On Glendora versus Michael Gelman and Christopher DiGiulio and Sarah Lee Evans. The court would have to send you a copy of its decision, but not this lazy court. I've got to go down to Manhattan, I've got to go down to the basement, and I've got to look up the decision, and I've got to make a copy of it. Get rid of them! Get somebody in there who can do the job. This one here for you from the Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Alexander Quinn. We will now maintain a worldwide website, http://MNNORG. The site contains program listings, information about Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and a bulletin board for comments. The site is available to anyone in the world with computer access to the internet. We are adding to the website a program producer directory listed by program title. If you would like to be included in the directory, please fill out the information below, sign this form, and return it to Manhattan Neighborhood Network by Friday, May 10th. Here, let me show it to you. I made it out. I can't remember if I sent it in or not. Here's another announcement for you. This ad was in the New York Law Journal about the Center for Judicial Accountability. It's a good idea. Celebrate Law Day. Join the Center for Judicial Accountability. a national non-profit, nonpartisan, tax-exempt organization working to rebuild our justice system. And needed litigators with top skills and demonstrated public interest commitment to handle diverse state, federal cases. Also, law researchers and writers. Resumes to fax 914-684-6654 or Box 69, Gedney Station, White Plains, New York, 10605. Email and the number for that. So that was in the Law Journal on Law Day. Governor Pataki came to Pace University and spoke on Law Day yesterday, and that's my birthday. May 1st, Law Day, is my birthday. I got 100 in school today, and Dad says it's about time. What in? Peter said I got 50 in arithmetic and 50 in spelling. This is a chat with Glendora reporting to you on the failures of the courts and of judges and of crooked lawyers and of lawbreakers from Thursday, April the 25th to today, May the 2nd. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful time of year. Oh, this is superb. This is perfect. We thank you, God, our great and wonderful God. Here is a joke. A boy got a job working for Jack Lemmon, the movie star, and he liked the job very much, but he quit because everybody called him a lemonade. Peter said to Diane, he was talking about what they were going to do Friday night, and Diane says, I'm not going to go out with you Friday night. And Peter says, well, that's terrible. You can't do that to me. What am I going to do with my weekend? And Diane said, wear a hat on it. And the teacher told the children to draw a picture, and the girl brought up a picture, and the teacher says, this is a blank page, and the girl says, it's a cow eating grass. The teacher says, well, there is no grass. The cow ate it all. Well, there's no cow. But when the grass was done, the cow left. I'm going to report to you on a concern I know of yours, neighborhood fights. When you have inconsiderate neighbors, neighbors who break the law, neighbors who break the Ten Commandments. And this, of course, is Glendora versus Walter, Pucci and Larkin. And there is no decision in the Appellate Division, Second Department, on the bad work of Harold Wood, retired justice, so-called, of the New York Supreme Court, Westchester County. The Appellate Division has not decided that. The Appellate Division has not decided on the Judge and Gracia poor work that was put before them. No due process, no reading of the record, no seeing of the videotapes, no witnesses sworn, no testimony taken, no jury, no evidence presented. You know, just a robbery of due process for which they get $113,000 a year. So the Appellate Division hasn't decided on that either. The record for Walsh is not good. They took down the Keep Off the Grass sign and put it outside of our apartment door. And then sign and put it outside of our apartment door. And then a Saturday night, they must have been drunker than usual, because this time when they came home, they took the sign, they tore it into 6 pieces and put the 6 pieces outside of our door. So I told John Porzio about it, the landlord, and I put the sign back together again. It was kind of fun. It was like doing a picture puzzle. And I taped it all up, and then I put a big stiff cardboard backing, and then I put a piece of clear acetate over the front of it. And I handed it to Caesar. And Caesar said he would put it up, but he hasn't put it up. It's not up today, Thursday, and we need that because the grass is so beautiful. And it wasn't up yesterday, Wednesday, it wasn't up Tuesday. Fifi moved out of 3C, and Caesar and Leslie are doing one of their impeccable jobs of restoring an apartment and making it shining and beautiful. I was sorry that John Porzio bought a new refrigerator for 3C because I wanted him to take the beautiful big refrigerator that we have that is more than 2 people and keeps our electric bill up to something like $65 just for 2 people when the landlord pays for the heat. So we will look into so that's vandalism, and of course it's grounds for eviction. The Walter should be eviction. Certainly Porzio has grounds to evict them. And so I'm looking for their record. The stats. How many tortious acts? There's the last week of March. Surely we must have something here for April. Don't have time to do these jobs. I don't have time to protest what the crazy New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal fails to do. Now they can't read a complaint and understand the complaint and can't read plain English. Well, here is, okay, it's 3,260 tortious acts committed by Walt, Pucci, and Larkin. It's 3,860 pages of bad record, 31 volumes. It's 259 mailings. Making the halls and the cellars look nice. She does such a fine job. The field next door is the great blessing. That's the big best. To look out at that field, it must be, what did I tell you, about 20 lots, and it's all growing up green, and the leaves are coming out, and it's just beautiful. What a great view to the south. Making a living here somehow, or rather taking care of children, and as if we don't have enough racket around here, she brings her 3 children that she's taking care of here, and they make all kinds of noise. And I would not want my children taken care of by somebody who smokes continuously and fill the lungs of my children with black smoke. At 10 o'clock a.m. we have Nella Alpucci standing at the bottom of the basement stairs, calling all the way up to 2 floors, Roberta! To Governor Pataki from Doris Sassower in the Center for Judicial Accountability. From past correspondence sent to your office, the Center for Judicial Accountability, and how we need that. Judicial Accountability is a national nonprofit, nonpartisan citizens organization headquartered in White Plains, New York, working to rebuild our judicial system, and how we need that. By meaningful reform of the judicial selection and discipline processes. Earlier this month, our work was featured on the Arts and Entertainment cable documentary about judicial misconduct called Bad Judgment, which aired throughout the country. A copy of our informational brochure is enclosed. We understand that you are to be the Law Day speaker on May 1st at Pace University Law School in White Plains. Although you are probably heavily scheduled on that day, would it be possible for us to make a brief presentation to you on behalf of the people of the state of New York while you are in White Plains? Our presentation is not an award or citation, but something far more important to the citizenry of the state. Petitions expressly addressed to you as governor and signed by thousands of New Yorkers calling for an investigation of judicial corruption in New York State. Hooray! We will report to you now that the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, has not made a decision on Glendora versus Elizabeth Hubbard and the Fund for Modern Courts, Michelle Mayapath and Alan Beck. Both Michelle Mayapath and Elizabeth Hubbard are no longer with the Fund for Modern Courts. Graduated from Brooklyn Law School in 57, elected to the New York City Civil Court in 83, Supreme Court for the 11th Judicial District 85, appointed to the appellate term for the 2nd and 11th Judicial Districts in 1992, and was designated an appellate division justice in 93. Joy devoted 25 years of his professional life to the field of public housing and was at one time Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Rent and Housing Maintenance, in charge of both the rent control and code enforcement divisions. A member of a number of bar associations, chairman of the board of the Edwin Gould Foundation, specializes in assisting mentally and emotionally disturbed children, lectured extensively at various colleges and law schools, and has written a number of articles on housing. Miriam J. Altman, Barnard College, 59, New York University School of Law, 63, Judge of the Civil Court of the City of New York, boo, in 78, and was appointed an acting Supreme Court Justice for the 1st Judicial District in 79. 87, she was elected as Supreme Court Justice for the 1st Judicial District. 94, served as a Justice of the Appellate Division, 2nd Department. She has lectured extensively on a wide range of legal topics and has authored articles on commercial law and civil procedure. Active in the Association of the Bar of the City of New York and is a former member of the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Boo. But she's very pretty. Edward J. Hart. Heartless. University, folks. Undergraduate and law degree. Supreme Court for the 10th Judicial District, 91, and began serving as a Justice for the Appellate Division, 2nd Department in 94. Justice Hart engaged in the private practice of law for over 30 years, active in various professional organizations, President of the Nassau County Bar Association, a member of the House of Delegates of both the American Bar Association and the New York State Bar Association, written extensively on various aspects of civil law. Judge Friedman. William D. Friedman received his undergraduate degree from Hunter College and his law degree from New York University School of Law. Judge of the Civil Court of the City of New York, 1981. Justice of the Supreme Court in the 11th Judicial District in 84. Commenced his tenure as a Justice for the Appellate Division, 2nd Department in 94. He served in several public positions and was at various times the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection for the City of New York, Coordinator of the Mayor's Hazardous Matters Task Force for the City of New York, and the New York City Emergency Energy Coordinator. He continues to be active in various charitable, educational, and human rights organizations, an Assistant District Attorney in the Queens County District Attorney's Office in 1960. So many of them were ADAs and DAs. We just have 3 more to do, and we'll do those next week. Don't forget Americans for Legal Reform. These are the people who are confronting these lying lawyers and crooked lawyers, and the fact that this country is run by 1% of the population, lawyers, and they are doing hard work and good work. The Americans for Legal Reform, and they're headquartered in Long Island. And here is their number. Let me see if I can find you their new number while we're looking for it to put it up on the screen here. 516-421-6390. Americans for Legal Reform. Get rid of the crooked lawyers. If you want a videotape, $19 or $20 from the arts and entertainment, bad judgments against about bad lawyers and bad judges. Call 1-800-423-1212. Videotape. Americans for Legal Reform was on that tape, and so was the Center for Judicial Accountability. I would have been on that tape to have put in what I know about crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. I would have been on there too, but that morning it was sleet and ice in Westchester County, and it was no day to drive to Nassau County, where it was videotaped. Bible passage, and that ends this week of watchdogging bad lawyers and bad judges and bad courts from April the 25th, 1996, last Thursday, to today, May the 2nd, 1996. Just like any man, he gets up in the morning and he shaves, only he shaves the budget. And Peter says, Daddy, Granddad, why does my sister wear her blue jeans so tight? And Granddad says, so she can fit into her compact car. The policeman said to the man, what does your speedometer say? And he says, my speedometer's broken. And the policeman says, how do you know how fast you're going? The man says, well, at 30 miles an hour it shakes, at 40 miles an hour it shimmies, and at 50 miles an hour it stops. The passage is from the book of Romans, chapter 14, verse 12. So then every one of us shall give account of himself to God. Remember that every hour and minute of your day. But this doesn't bother lawyers and judges. so that every one of us shall give account of himself to God. I guess it's time to say goodbye. We thank you very much, and we wish you very good success, and we're sorry that people will take away your rights for their own selfish purposes in every possible way they can, and that it turns out to be a fight for your fighting for your rights. We're sorry about that. God bless you all. To the Walsh clan, and that's too bad. At 1:32 p.m. on Friday, Roberta Walsh blasts the horn 3 times into our dining room window, and the daughter comes here and blasts the horn 8 times into our dining room window. That was last Sunday. And there isn't any heat. The heat was turned off too early, a favorite landlord trick. It may be the month of May, but it is a cold month of May. It's 50 degrees and 45 degrees, and the heat should not have been turned off. There isn't any time to do the new wall lawsuit. There isn't any time to straighten out the DHCR and complain to Governor Pataki how bad they are, how they can't read plain English, and how they don't know what a complaint is, and they don't understand it, and they can't resolve the complaint correctly. There are 3,261 tortious acts by Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. There are 3,854 pages of bad record, and we're up to the 230th mailing, and this is exhibit number 104. The landlord has been on the property a couple of times, and he always comes when it's time to rent an apartment. He's trying to rent 3B. Monday was a day of peace, May the 16th. On May the 17th, Roberta brings in another noisy kid, babysitting the kid. It's voice noise and foot noise up the stairs, and this is not right. She shouldn't bring kids here to babysit to make money. And when I went out into the hall to check out what was going on, she says, "What's wrong now?" She bellowed, "We can't walk up the stairs." Glendora was silent. Glendora just observed. And at 8:37 a.m. a woman comes to pick up the kid on Wednesday and at Roberta's and blows the horn. See, these are landlord neighborhood fights, and they just shouldn't be. All you have to do is be considerate. Division to find out if in their slothfulness they have made a decision on Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin as far as the political influenced work of Judge Wood, if they had made a decision on that. And the computer is down. So you don't know anything. You don't know what the decision is on Judge Wood, you don't know what the decision is on Judge Ingrassia, and you don't know what the decision is on Hubbard. But Nat down there was good enough to try to find the decision, and he found it in the hand-downs, they call it, and he went out back and he got somebody in the decision department to read it to me. And guess what it is? It's the same old story. There's nobody in the world crookeder or more politically influenced than Judge Harold L. Wood. No? Well, there is. It's the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, 45 Monroe Place, Brooklyn. And so here is number 12. The Appellate Division doesn't rule on whether, they don't rule on the law, they don't rule on the facts, they rule on the basis of whether what is good for them. What is the best for the judges? That's what they rule for. And what's best for the judges? Political appointments. They all come up through the ranks, through the legislature, and through the DA's office and all that, and it's all political all the way. So they rule what is best. And so we have the crooked Wilson Babe law firm, Koza Cousins Comboy, McGrath, Odell, Karamitsos, buying the mind, heart, and soul of Harold L. Wood, who is now retired, I'm happy to say, and is out of there. And then he does whatever they tell him to do, because they're the political force. And then Glendora exposes the whole thing, takes it to the Appellate Division. And what does the Appellate Division do? They stick with the politicians. They stick with the political clout. Right in broad daylight, they write these wacky, weird decisions that everybody can see for years to come. And so there's number 12. Bad work, dishonest work, violation of oath and office, and you're paying them $117,000 a year, 4 of them, to do this rotten work. You're through paying Wood, except for his retirement, $113,000 a year, and that's what you're getting for it. We have no courts. They have disgraced our courts. We don't have any courts left. And so that decision will be up here. If the man said, I left them a self-addressed stamped envelope. You wouldn't think after paying $250 to the Appellate Division that they couldn't find a 32-cent stamp to send you a decision, could you? Now this is bad because you have to pay $250, but these rotten judges up here, Wood and Ingrassia in the Westchester Supreme Court, split the case. Totally unnecessary. Split the case so that when I went down the Appellate Division I had to pay $250 twice, and then the Appellate Division puts the cases back together again, but they don't give me back my $250. You can't find anything crookeder than a court. You can't find anybody crookeder than judges and lawyers. Who were these judges who disgraced our courts? Mangano, Miller, Ritter, and Pizzuto. Remember, they don't rule on the law, they don't rule on the facts, they rule on the basis of, is it politically good for me? Is it politically good for me, the judges? Yeah. Is it a good political move for me? Happen, we'll get their crummy, worthless piece of garbage in the mail, and then we will ask the New York State Court of Appeals for leave to appeal. And this is the way it has gone 12 times. It is the worst court we have, the Appellate Division, Second Department, Supreme Court of the State of New York. And as this nice young man from the decision department was reading the decision to me, I said, stop. I know the rest of it. I know the rest of it. You don't have to read it to me. It's my 12th one. Their English construction is oblivion. Their law is contrived and artificial and inapplicable. And what do you get? You get a weird piece of paper, always, from the Appellate Division. What a bunch of crooks. The whole thing to them. The influence on Wood of political Wilson Bay, their chance was to correct it, but what did they choose? They chose the devil. They chose what was unjust. They chose what was self-serving, and they chose what was disgraceful. But that's their life. That's what you're paying them $117,000 a year for. 4 of them. You know, if the Appellate Division would do their job honestly and honorably and be a good court, then the other courts would be better. But the Westchester Supreme Court is so rotten because the Appellate Division is so corrupt. And then that makes the city courts and the village courts and the appellate terms. It makes all of them bad. If we could just have one court that did its job, which was to give justice, you know, that would help a whole lot. But because the Appellate Division is so rotten, all the other courts are rotten too. Division, Second Department, the Appellate Division is the second highest court in the state of New York. And it's corrupt. It's political. I would rather be honest and lose than to sell my soul and call it a victory when it isn't. Well, we finally, on Officer Stead, whose malicious prosecution saying I went through a red light when I didn't go through a red light, has cost us 67 hours and $59.31 so far. And what month are we on? Let's see, from January the 15th, we'll say, to May the 15th. That's 4 months. Remember, Officer Harrington wasn't wearing a necktie. On May the 2nd, 1996, Thursday, a week ago, I wrote to the chambers of the Honorable Robert Friedman, City Court of the City of New York, the City of White Plains, 77 South Lexington, White Plains, New York, 10601. My dear Judge Friedman, you have a court stenographer problem in your court and you have to do something about it. She has to give Glendora the number of pages and the cost of each page. This is Helene Markovici. Glendora has bought over 30 transcripts and knows what is going on. A court stenographer cannot charge the state more than $1.78 a page. Court stenographers are one reason that Glendora is in form of pauperism. Now, the price Helene Markovici has quoted of $500 is excessive, and now she is trying to cover up. There's no way will it be tolerated. If I've overestimated, I'll give you a refund. Well, that's not going to go, folks. People don't give refunds. Once they get the money, they don't refund. The union head of the court stenographers, Rose Impellamini, told Glendora last week in the U.S. District Courthouse when we met in the lobby that Helene had to give Glendora the number of pages and the cost per page. Does everything have to be bad in the White Plains City Court? They take forever. You're banged around the court by court officers. Your rights are violated by court officers. You have a lying policeman. You have a lying corporation counsel. You have violation of free speech. You have no depositions. You have a denial of evidence on videotape. And you have denial of due process and backed up calendars. Now, Marie Kuchta tells Glendora the state doesn't pay for stenographers' minutes. Well, the appellate term tells Glendora the state does. It's ridiculous to pay $500 for court stenographer minutes on a $100 red light charge, a charge that is a hoax. Glendora has the right to audio tape her own record at no cost. Further, she should have had the record instantly. She would have had the record instantly. Court stenographers take 30 days to produce a record, and it's been 4 months already, if even then. The Federal Judicial Center did an extensive study on court stenographers versus audio tapes, and the audio tapes won head and shoulders over court stenographers for speed, accuracies, and cost. It is, I'm happy to say, a dying profession, and the sooner it's out of here, the better off we will all be. It is crooked, it is evil, it is supported by the judges, it is unjust. And for some reasons, judges are overprotective of court stenographers. It's a vested interest in a dying ripoff. And here's today's joke. The warden says, "Charlie, you must be lonesome in here. You never have any friends or relatives come and visit you." And Charlie says, "Oh, no, warden, they're all in here with me." Now, that was distributed by hand to Judge Holden, Judge Judge Trafficante, Judge Lippman, and Judge Kay was by mail. Mayor Schulman, Mary Ann Keenan, and all of the other council people, White Plains and Glendora TV audience, that's you and Rose Impellamini and Nancy Mango. And we enclosed the letters from Helene Markovici, who says, "I'm responding to your phone calls in writing in accordance with my standard business practice. I have previously sent you all the requirements for producing a transcript. These requirements are my standard operating procedure, which I follow in all cases." Well, I don't care. These court stenographers, they think they can go out and rip everybody off. If you choose to request a transcript, you must meet the terms and conditions I previously identified. Oh, yeah? I am enclosing another copy of the estimate in case you have lost it. $500 with no number of pages and with no amount per page. That's crooked. So amount per page. That's crooked. Let's go back. Okay. Let's black. Let's go back. Out per page. That's crooked. and with no amount per page. That. So you don't get ripped off. Here is the price right here. Say it's $1.38. I said a 78, but that's misspoke. It's $1.38 per page is the maximum that a court stenographer can charge the state. But the crux is, we don't know how many pages it is, because Markovici is covering that up. So on May 7th, Tuesday, I got out another letter, and this one went to Mr. Montello in the appellate term and to Helene Markovici, court stenographer, Rose Impalamini, union head of court stenographers, although she doesn't represent the ones in the city court, to Judge Friedman, Judge Holden, Mayor Schulman, Marie Kuchta, hi Katie, Nancy Mangold, Richard Farina, Joseph Hennenberry, Mary Ann Keenan, and all other council members in Glendora's TV audience. That's you. And it says, Helene Markovici, court stenographer, White Plains City Court, can charge the state only $1.38 per page. Please see the enclosed regulation. So Glendora has to know how many pages and has been asking this since March the 27th, 1996. Helene Markovici has refused to tell Glendora 7 times. Glendora is applying IFP to the appellate term 9th and 10th Judicial District and asking the state to pay for the minutes. $500 for these minutes is a rip-off. Yours in truth, Glendora. A chat with Glendora. $500 for a $100 red light blows justice to the moon. So it adds up to, let's see, the stats would be 67 hours, 68 hours, 70 hours and a half, 73 hours. 73 hours and a half. This vendetta of Officer Stead costs Franklin and Glendora, and the amount of money is 59.31, 310, and 32 is 3, 4, 7, 93 is 12. Another 23, $62.96. You're driving along and you're being a good citizen and you're obeying all the laws, and then a policeman pulls up behind you and prosecutes you maliciously and doesn't tell the truth, and it costs you $62.96 so far, and that doesn't include the hoax of a fine, and it costs you 73 and a half hours of your life. Everybody to the Nassau County edition of A Chat with Glendora, the Long Island edition. We have a joke to tell you. Peter was out on the golf course. He had a terrible day. So he threw his golf bag into the pond, he threw his golf clubs into the pond, he threw all of his golf balls into the pond, and he went up to the clubhouse and he slit his wrist, and he's standing there bleeding to death, and Charlie comes in and says, "Hi Pete, how about a game of golf tomorrow?" And Pete says, "What time?" I see that maybe A Chat with Glendora has had some good effect for you consumers in Nassau County. I've been reporting to you for 2¼ years how the Department of Consumer Affairs, how Mr. Picken and Mr. Galata allow a fraud that has been well publicized go on and on. For instance, letting Scott Lord operate a consumer affairs business without any license, that it goes on and with their knowledge, and they don't do anything about it. That is not protecting you consumers from a fraudulent operator, a person who has ripped off up close to 100 people. You just go over in the county clerk's office and you look up Atlantis Lawn Sprinkler or Forever Green and Scott Lord, and you'll be reeled backwards as the sheriff's department is by the screen after screen after screen after screen of judgments. So I heard on the radio last night on WCBS, I heard Mr. Glendora saying that they are going to take tough measures on some consumer problem out there and protect you people. So maybe we have had an effect. Badly to get the Cablevision work up to date so that I can report to you on it. And I just never can because there's too much law breaking, and then the lawyers make their living lying about it. And how would you like to make your living lying? And then there are just too many judges who go along with the crime and with the law breaking and who don't do their job by you, which is to rule honorably and honestly in the courts and justly. So there's so much of that, and you have to fight it all day long. Every day 2 or 3 come in and you have to set the record straight, and you have to show the world where the lawyers are lying and where the judges are breaking down. But I am happy to report that I was able to get the Cablevision logs up to date. And now I can report the stats to you that I wasn't able to report to you for weeks. Yes, I believe the last one that you heard was the week of April the 8th. And these logs have been sent out to Mr. Irvin Polinsky of Cablevision at One Media Crossways. So let's take the week of April the 15th and let's read you the stats. The number of hours Cablevision law breaking, lying, and covering up cost us was 18.5 hours, and the number of dollars was $111.62. And for the following week of May the 12th, the number of hours was 6, and the number of dollars was, excuse me, that's wrong, I'm reading the wrong log. The number of hours was 3, and the number of dollars was 0. And for the week of April 29th, the law breaking and the lying and the bad judge work went to TCI for breaking the same laws that Cablevision has broken. And so Cablevision just cost us 6 hours and $2, and it's mailing number 285, and then 286 and 287, which will be read to you shortly, and volumes 40 up to volume 41 volumes. And this is Katie, who is lunchtime, and she wants to be fed. And Cablevision has 12,338 pages of bad record, and on TV there's been 256, I believe, in that neighborhood. Chapters on TV, a half an hour each. Manhattan, and he won't do anything about Cablevision stealing the subpoena fees. $70, 5 Cablevision people, James Dolan, Patrick Dolan, William Quinn, 5 were stolen, 5 checks for $70. When the Franklin served the subpoena on them, he gave them the checks for $70, $40 a day for coming to court, and then $30 travel from Woodbury up here to White Plains. And so Franklin wrote a letter to Judge Bryant to see what he could do about it, and Judge Bryant's not going to do anything about it until he comes back from being in court in Manhattan. I was down there in Manhattan. I should have looked in on him. I looked in on Miriam Cedarbaum, but she's away at a conference. So that's the news on that, and Paul Tomasi reported that to me today. We haven't had time to, I want to go through all the Cablevision logs and get the grand total of how much money they have cost us and how many hours of our lives they have cost us with their law breaking, with their lying, and with their covering up. I'm going to read to you now, went out on May the 3rd, that would be Friday, Chief Clerk, Westchester Supreme and County Courts, plaintiff appellant's reply affidavit to Donald N. Silverman that Mr. Callaghy does not show cause. Glendora, under penalty of perjury, swears that she is the plaintiff appellant in this action, and she states her reasons follow for opposing the defendant's lawyer answer to order to show cause signed by Judge Silverman April 15, 1996. 1. Defendant's lawyer failed to show cause why the two people who know the most about the programming in Nassau County should not appear before this bench to testify. Mr. Callaghy gives no reason why said witnesses should not be produced. Mr. Callaghy gives no legal basis for the same. The agreements in effect between Cablevision and all public access producers are identical to the agreement between Glendora and Cablevision Nassau. Ergo, they provide nothing new to the plaintiff appellant. They would be just a stuffer, void of any new information, and an excuse to bill Mr. Callaghy's client. No cause would be served by such agreements. Glendora wants these two people who know the most about him to produce May 10th, 1996 at 9:30 a.m. before Judge Silverman. That's tomorrow. It was Mr. Callaghy who brought up the meritless defense to the appellate division, and with no grounds for review, since the same had not been brought up to Judge Silverman before the appeal of the quote-unquote public within. That Glendora is not a resident of Nassau County, therefore she can't be on TV in Nassau County. Well, it was Mr. Callaghy who brought up the same meritless defense to Judge Silverman March the 11th, 1996 orally, and March the 28th, 1996 in a brief. Now, Mr. Callaghy's bluff is called. The two people who know the most about the programming will both testify, quote, that many other public access producers have programs on the same Long Island Cablevision system Glendora is on, and these producers do not live in the franchise area and are not the so-called public within, unquote. Glendora has testimony by these people and wishes to present it to the court, and the program people are not a party to the action any longer. Glendora moved the appellate division to take them away from the case in 1994, and they did, and Mr. Callaghy again fails to be familiar with the facts and circumstances, and that is his job. Plaintiff wants the names and addresses of all public access producers currently on the Nassau system produced to Judge Silverman, not to her. Glendora already has the list. There is no address. Mr. Callaghy's affidavit is not dated, and you know that this one went out on May the 3rd, and here is Mr. Callaghy's very crooked and lying excuse for a show cause. Decision and order came from Judge Silverman yesterday, and okay, this is the answer to that. To the chambers of the Honorable Donald N. Silverman, JSC, Westchester County, 111 Grove Street, White Plains, New York, 10601, regarding Glendora versus Cofault, Cablevision, Dolan, Tata, Quinn, etc., index number 328894. Dear Judge Silverman, stop, stop, stop. Glendora does not want the agreements between all public access producers currently on the Nassau system and Cablevision. This is about 70 public access producers times 15 pages equal 1,050 pages that plaintiff doesn't want. All these agreements are photocopies of Glendora's agreement and produce no information whatsoever. The court is wrong to accept this as, quote, in lieu of, unquote. Glendora explained the same to this court just a few days ago. Don't you read my papers? Do you read just one side? Further, defendants did not show cause. Why? The program people should not appear before you and testify. You ordered defendant to show cause. Well, defendant failed. And it is not as important for Glendora to see the list of public access producers as show there are numerous public access producers on the Nassau system who are not residents as it is for you to see them. The court needs this information to make the correct decision. The public within quote-unquote argument of Mr. Callaghy has no merit. Your decision order of 5/7/96 is as baseless as that of the Appellate Division of February 13, 96, which the Appellate Division made under pressure of the same Nassau politicals who coerced Cablevision to take Glendora's program off TV November 12, 1993, which you put back on TV September 3rd, 1994, for which no matter what, Glendora will ever be grateful to you, even though you deprived me of my costs and damages and contributed to my decline to inform a pauperous. Your decision order of May the 7th, 1996 is letting defendants cover up and denies Glendora's due process to present evidence and testimony, and Glendora wants a jury trial. Glendora takes exception to your May the 7th, 1996 order. She does not want 1,000 sheets of useless paper that gives you and the defendants a false pretense that something is being done, when nothing is being done. You give no bases for your decision, you cite no cases. Save the paper, save the trees. Mr. Callaghy did not provide a memorandum of law. His opposition was perfunctory, minimal, and cocky that you would rule in his favor. Glendora was on TV in Nassau reporting to consumers the dereliction of Mr. Galata and Mr. Pickin and others in protecting them from frauds committed by Scott Lord. It is interesting to note that Glendora's message is getting through. Last night on WCBS TV, WCBS Radio AM, Mr. Galata was announcing a new campaign against consumer fraud to protect the people Glendora was showing his record was failing to protect. Yours in truth, Glendora, May the 9th, 1996, Thursday at 4 a.m. I was up at 2 o'clock last night getting this done. 4 hours, a chat with Glendora, and carbon copy to Robert Callaghy. And that has gone. Accountant, I'm leaving the firm to work for the government. Client, oh, that's wonderful. What are you going to do for the government? Make license plates. And early to bed and early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise, and apt to get his own breakfast. And Paul and Joan are a perfect couple. He's a hypochondriac and she's a pill. Now, as for Glendora versus Hofstadter, Nair, and Schleier, and DeLorme, and Continental Cablevision TV, and their law-breaking press sent this promotional material to get me to have them print my brief of the atrocious Judge Parker decision that broke all the laws. And then Diane Rainey sent these three documents, and she says that a program that airs, that's ridiculous, cable operators don't air, that cable casts on Saturdays when a chat with Glendora is not on, is the Vince Martell show, but it has been a whole lot of other shows, and I know that for a fact because I call up every Saturday to see what's on. And the list of new public access producers, she came up with 12 more of them, and that's good because she had only given me 12 before, but when I kept questioning her and questioning her, and here is the new franchise agreement with Austining. So she produced those three documents. This paper you haven't seen because it went out Friday, the day after you and I finished talking last. The Chambers of the Honorable Margaret Lisa Smith, United States Magistrate Judge, Southern District of New York, 300 Quaropa Street, White Plains, New York, 10601. Re Glendora versus Hofstetter et al., 95 Civ 0140 BDP. Oh, that's the wrong number, Glennie. Let's correct that right now. This is 95 Civ 6814 BDP. My dear Judge Smith, Glendora wishes, pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 21, to add 3 defendants to her lawsuit against Hofstetter et al. They are U.S. West Incorporated, Richard D. McCormick, and Charles Lillis. The acquisition by U.S. West Incorporated with Continental Cablevision Incorporated, Hofstetter, Nair, Ritter et al. Changes the picture, and Glendora wants to keep her lawsuit current and relevant. Yours in truth, Glendora. Chat with Glendora, and here is McCormick. McCormick is the chairman of the board, the president, and the chief executive officer. And I want to add U.S. West as a defendant, and this is Mr. Hofstetter, and this is Mr. Lillis. And so that's, I have not heard from Judge Smith about permission to make that motion, which I think is a dumb thing anyhow, because that's why you go to court, so that you can move the judge or move the court. That's what you're there to, move the court for what you want and what you need. Now, there's just one thing left, I believe, and that's the stats. There hasn't been any time to work on Continental Cablevision and get it up to date. It would be nice to have it all filed and all paginated and the logs up to date, and to have all of the hours and the dollars added up. It would be nice to have that and have a mailing go out. But you never get time to do things right because of the law breaking of crooks, the paid liars, the lawyers, and because of inept courts. Won't resolve. They never get justice done. It's just an on and on and on and on. The statistics are 495 hours, $860, and $122,000 worth of legal work, labor, putting out legal papers. 9 volumes of bad record, 38 weeks of stalling and accomplishing nothing, 2,353 pages of bad record, approximately 45 television reports, a half an hour each, and this is about the 37th or the 38th week. We have here come in today a rambling letter from Mr. Waltz too. It goes on, and it's really jagged and ragged, but of course you know what it's about. He's asking for more extensions. He's asking for an extension of time, and he's giving excuses why he hasn't answered Glendora's motion to sanction the defendants for failure to do discovery pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 37A and 37B. In other words, instead of treating the motion properly, he's doing his usual cop-out. Says he's fit as a fiddle, and his mother-in-law says yes, and shaped like a cello. And the client was so happy for his accountant. His accountant, he says, is brilliant. He says the American Association of Accountants named a loophole after him. Work is never done thanks to daytime television. Now then, I am going to report to you on the atrocious law-breaking of Telecommunications Incorporated, John Malone, Bob Magnus, Clauston and Marshall and Thompson, and all those people whose names you see on the screen. And this is what happened from the week of May the 2nd, with the beautiful flowers, to today, May the 9th, Thursday. And here is the conference the next day after we met on Friday, May the 3rd, with Judge Fox.
Glendora versus Marshall. That's Glendora versus Marshall. Excuse me, the clerk will call the case the way the case is listed on the docket.
Then list the case right on the docket.
Now, the last time we were here was the 19th of April. And since that time, there are two matters to be addressed today. The first, the purpose of this meeting today is to address the defendant's application for reconsideration of Judge Connor's February ruling regarding the Rule 2, Local Civil Rule 2 disclosures. Before I get to that, the only other correspondence I've received on this case since we were last here was in April. It's undated, but I received it April 30th from the plaintiff, in which she lists some 42 witnesses she intends to depose or she wishes to depose. Has the defense gone over the list? Stand when you address the court, please.
Sorry. Yes, Your Honor, we received it yesterday, but we've been thinking about this quite a bit, even without receiving the list, so we're prepared to talk about the list and to...
I just want to know if you've received it. You've got 5 business days from when you receive it to write and tell me your position. We're scheduled on May 24th at 1 o'clock to set deposition dates of any witnesses on whom there's any dispute. If you have a dispute about any of these witnesses in terms of depositions, I'm sure there will be looking at the list. You can get your letter brief to me within 5 days, and I'll make rulings on it on the 24th. Why don't you speak with the plaintiff today and advise her which of the witnesses you have difficulty with. As to those, the plaintiff has 5 business days from today to submit a letter brief limited to 2 pages double-spaced as to each witness. If you can do it in less, feel free. Telling me as to each of these witnesses why you need to depose them and what information you have that leads you to believe that the depositions are reasonably calculated to result in the disclosure of admissible evidence. Business days from today will bring us to May 10th. The defendant then has 5 business days thereafter, which will bring us to May 17th. For 2-page double-spaced responses. We'll certainly hear oral argument on the 24th in connection with each of these. And again, these only have to be done in connection with the ones that there's a dispute about. Any question about the procedure? procedure we're going to follow?
No, it's very clear. Your Honor. There's been a couple of minutes, but it's those we don't object to. She asked, for example, they did by telephone. We don't object to that. She suggested a week, a time period. We have no objection to that either. I just wondered whether there is an opportunity for her to take a deposition at the courthouse and whether, I'm not sure what the practice is.
The only time we take depositions at the courthouse is if there's some difficulty with the witness or we anticipate disputes. Other than that, you can set the depositions up any place you care to do it, including at the court reporter's office. The usual practice for telephone depositions is for everyone, including the court reporter, to be at one location with the exception of the witness who's being deposed. And that witness will be deposed by telephone. There's many people as you can have in one location with the court reporter. It certainly makes it easier for the reporter to take the deposition. You can, when we're finished with this conference, you can feel free to discuss amongst yourselves that you know which witnesses and what issues are in dispute, so we know what the letter briefs are going to be addressed to.
Do you have a room for that?
A room for what?
Well, we're going to discuss after
Oh,
this.
sure. There's a consultation room on the hall you can use for that, certainly. As you walk out to the right, it's all the way on the end.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Now, the only other issue that I need to address today that I'm aware of is the issue of the disclosure that was ordered by Judge Connor in February. And I've received the extensive submissions from both sides on that. Is there anything that either side wants to tell me in addition to what's already submitted?
Yes, you take an oral answer to that, don't you?
Certainly.
Tell me when you'd like to have me give one.
Go right ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why don't we do this? Because they're the moving on it. Why don't I have them speak first and then I'll have you speak, all right?
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. And a few things that would like to mention. First, wanted to make the point that the defendant we made it in writing that actually, in fact, the next part of the order doesn't make it improper is the real reason. And in fact, Your Honor, we've had a lot of exchanges of papers back and forth, and the fact is, it never really said in the letters I read to the papers that there is a real relevance to this information, other than the fact that she reads the rules required production. If there were, at this point, Your Honor, I'd just like asking the court to deny her access to information about prejudice. If there's some way through discovery, she discovers the relevance, if there's some way through discovery that it becomes, she can make an argument to you that there's some relevance here, or might lead to relevant information, then we can discuss it again. And we go the other way. But as it stands now, there's been no representation of relevance or anything that would lead to relevant information, or would be what she wants information about. The lawsuit. We're appearing. There's no questions of service. We have some personal jurisdiction questions that we have disclosed for the residents of each individual is as far as the jurisdiction goes. Even though I can't think of a reason, and there's no volunteer reason as to why this information should be disclosed.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Indeed. This man defied the United States District Judge, and in his speech just now, he's never given any justification for that. I think he should be sanctioned. I think the defendant should be sanctioned. When a judge gives an order, the order should be obeyed. It should be obeyed immediately. And this order, as you said, was given in February 28th, and the whole month of March is gone of defiance, and a whole bunch of April has gone in defiance. He's worried about my saying the home addresses on the television program. I don't have a television program anymore. As of April 30th, Tuesday, day before yesterday, it was taken off TV. And it's not on TV. What's going on? It's gone nowhere. Channel 8 is gone as far as public access goes. An order is an order. I think that his argument to you is a matter of hysterics. It's not legal. He doesn't give any legal basis. It's just based on being hysterical. Maybe thousands. He doesn't know how many people are watching Channel 8 anyway. The program isn't there. It's going on. As far as intimidating goes, it's about 20 people versus one plaintiff, a female and a senior citizen, a pro se, and a former paupers. I hardly think that they have to run away from me. I don't see that the defendants or Mr. Ross show cause why they should not produce the home addresses that Judge Connor ordered. The rules are there to be enforced. We have local rules too. Why do we have rules if the defendants are allowed to eschew them, as they have been for 2 months? And what Mr. Ross calls confrontational is Glendora is fighting for her rights. And he and Malone and Angus and TCI are all trampled, and this court is here to enforce. Judge Connor was wrong to be manipulated over the phone by Beth Miles. We ought to know enough not to do that, even a pro se knows that you don't do that. And the Glendora TV report on the Judge Connor telephone conversation to Glendora running away from the case was censored by TCI Tuesday night at 9:08 p.m. on Tuesday night. TCI turned on the audio on a chat with Glendora and played just the video. This is fine and very real. And there was never any more audio through 9:30 p.m. The whole program was censored. And it was the Judge Connor report. There was no excuse for Judge Connor not to enforce his
defendants are represented by counsel. Any information you want to get to them, you can get to
Well,
them
it
through
goes to
counsel.
him. It goes to him. But I have information that I want to get to these defendants, that same information.
Why do you need their home addresses in order to do that when it can be sent through counsel or at work?
Yeah. The answer to that, Your Honor, is that at work against them at the office, it goes into the circular file. Your Honor, I don't like to interrupt your train of thought, but I have points I want to take over, discuss with you beyond this.
Right now I'm addressing this issue, so let's finish this
Yes,
issue.
but
Mr. Wells?
give me an opportunity?
Yes.
Mr. Honor, first, with respect to this continues to challenge the also telephone world cable and several other systems and metropolitan areas, so whether or not she's not there. And second of all, I should have mentioned that she's willing to establish personal post office boxes. If we have a personal address, we will do that. It's the residence address, which is all of us. Argument as strongly as we can.
All right, thank you. Okay, I was assigned the general pretrial supervision of this matter by Judge Connor, to whom the case was then assigned by his order of March 12, 1996. Judge Connor has since recused himself, and the matter has been reassigned to Judge Rakoff, who has continued the reference to me for that purpose. On February 26th, before his recusal, Judge Connor directed the defendants to provide home residence addresses to the plaintiff as required by Local Civil Rule 2. The issue now was raised before me on March 29th, and at that time I directed that the defendants comply with Judge Connor's order or apply to Judge Connor for relief. On April 17th, I was advised by Judge Connor that any application for relief from his February 26th order regarding the Rule 2 disclosures should be entertained by me. Her second demand for interrogatories, which was received by the defendants apparently after Judge Connor's Rule 2 disclosure order, the plaintiff included a copy or reprint of a publication which was on the subject of discovery sanctions for violations of the federal civil rules. Along with the printed portion of the page, the plaintiff wrote across the page, in effect, take note that Glendora is armed and dangerous. This comment was understandably upsetting to defendants and their counsel. Glendora has since filed other documents referring to that comment as a figure of speech. I read the submissions, and I believe that while it could be read as meaning that she was by reason of the availability of discovery sanctions in this litigation, that does not detract from the fact that this is serious litigation in this court, and those submissions by the plaintiff were most improper and inappropriate, and I believe she knows that. At the very least, the use of that phrase showed remarkably poor judgment, and at worst, it could be taken as an attempt to intimidate a party. Accordingly, I can understand and recognize the defendant's concerns, and as far as this application for reconsideration is concerned and pursuant to Judge Connor's direction, that I consider it, I'm accepting the application for reconsideration as an application for protective order under Rule 26. I've considered the written submissions of both the plaintiff and defense counsel. As I've indicated, I've reviewed the material, including Judge Connor's February 26th decision and the affidavit of John Wicker, which was also submitted dated April 12th, and the oral arguments presented to me today. In the oral argument, as well as in Mr. Wicker's affidavit, Mr. Wicker raises a concern that the plaintiff, who apparently has used public access television programs, her public access television program to discuss her various litigations, which of course she has the right to do. And she's apparently read extensively from court documents, pleadings, depositions, and so forth, and the defendants have some concerns that she would publicize their home addresses, which would result, or might well result, in invasions of their privacy, harassment. Having reviewed Local Civil Rule 2, I believe the reason for the rule is to establish without question the residence of various parties for the purpose of making the necessary determinations that the court needs to make on the issues of venue and jurisdiction. Accordingly, and after having considered this entire matter, I'm making the following direction. The February 26th order of disclosure is modified as follows. Within 5 business days from today, each individual defendant is to provide a sworn statement which reflects to the plaintiff and to the court, which reflects the state and county of their residence. And they are bound by those statements in connection with this litigation. They will be sworn and notarized. In addition, the individual plaintiff, the individual defendants are to establish addresses. They can be post office boxes. They can be addresses at work, the manner in which envelopes are to be addressed, where information sent to them through the mail is personally received by them and not screened or opened by everyone or by anyone else. And the purpose for that, it can be done through counsel's office as long as there is an understanding that the direction is that any information sent and addressed to them at that address will be opened by no one but the addressee. And that, I think, adequately addresses the concerns that the plaintiff has. It satisfies, I think, the underlying basis for Local Civil Rule 2 and addresses the concerns of the defendants as well. Depositions you mentioned that you had some other points you wanted to raise. What are those?
Yes, thank you. Witness Dume says, I did not receive the technical audit report by the Public Service Commission. Do I wait until 26th in public? The same question applies to the insurance agreement. Answered my first set of interrogatories of February 3rd. Nobody's answered the second set.
With respect to the second audit, the manager said that we're only allowed to produce an audit. May 6th? Yeah. With respect to the second
set of interrogatories.
The second set of interrogatories, you went over the last time we were here. Your ruling was that the second set of interrogatories should be, if necessary, should through a Rule 30B through a deposition.
Were those the interrogatories dated April the 5th of 1996?
Yes.
My notes indicate that those were stricken as in accordance with Local Rule 46A, since they require information not set forth by the rule, but I think I also indicated at that point that the information you wanted would be provided to you in a deposition, a 30B6 deposition.
Oh, you didn't order them to provide by 46A? You didn't order them to answer interrogatory first 46A?
46A sets forth the proper subjects to be covered by interrogatories, and I ruled that the interrogatories that you submitted were not in compliance with the rule. That's why they were stricken.
So I understood that they were to be answered according to 46A.
No. Except to the extent that they may request documents or identification of witnesses. Maybe that's where the confusion lies.
I don't think there are any thing. I'll read it again to make sure.
Okay, but again, it's the defendant's obligation to produce a witness who has information for you and can provide information regarding what amounts to the subject May 6th.
Yes.
Okay. Judge Fox, we have no more restriction on warnings as far as conferences with you.
Correct.
Warnings are open now.
Correct.
Well, I had set, let me take a look there. We had set that for May 24th at 1 o'clock. Why don't we leave it at 1 o'clock? The reason I say that is I may need that time between 10 and 1 to review any submissions. I'm going to be out of the district on other business for a couple of days that week, so I want to make sure I have time to review the papers that are submitted before you come in that day. So let's leave that at 1 o'clock that day, okay?
Judge Fox, this May 5, May 6th, I did not receive copies of the checks that TCI gave to municipalities.
I think that's also going to be provided. I think I directed all that by May 6th.
Yes, you're on all of them. Right.
So the sixth witness is going to answer who made the decision, how it was made. These are your words, and what input from various people.
What was considered by them in making the decision, yes.
Yeah, these are your words.
Right.
Okay. I'd like the court to know that this has cost us $633.25 hours, $4,041.64, and $158,312.50 in legal work.
You're not entitled to legal fees. I think you know that.
I don't think I'm making that point. I just want you to know what this has cost us. Judge Fox, I sent you an audio tape. Were you able to hear that, or did you send that by us to hear that?
What audio tape? When did you send this?
I sent you an audio tape on April the 1st. April the 2nd.
Audio tape of what?
The conversation between Mr. Ross and myself about documents.
Oh, yeah, I received that audio tape. I didn't listen to it.
Okay, you don't want any audio tape sent to you.
The only time I'm interested, if an audio tape becomes relevant, I'll ask you for it. For example, you may recall in your last case, there was a dispute about what was said in the conversation, and I wanted to hear the audio tape for that. Otherwise, I generally limit it to the 2-page letters.
Okay. TCI did not comply with the New York State 6-month rule notice of discontinuance of service. Did you deal with that as a Judge Raybo?
What are you talking about? 6 months?
Yes, the New York State has Article 28 now public service law. The cable company has to notify people 6 months with any discontinuance of service. They did not do that in the case of discontinuance of the public access of channel. They did not do 6 months.
Okay, I don't know that that's relevant to this lawsuit. That may be something that you can bring up in some other forum or in some other case. I don't see what's relevant here.
You mean here, Magistrate Judge Fox, or
For my purposes, it's not relevant. It's whether it's relevant to Judge Rakoff, you can address to him.
when is the trial?
We'll have to discuss that with Judge Rakoff. He's the trial judge. What he generally does is when discovery is complete, and discovery will be complete in this case on June 30th, unless either side is going to use an expert for any purpose. If experts are going to be used, then it'll be the end of September. But when discovery is complete, I'll certify that to Judge Rakoff, and then if he hasn't called you in already, he will call you all in at that point when you do trial date.
Well, the defendant's waived experts, because I have experts, but I have quite a few experts, Judge Fox, and that's on the list that I gave you.
If you have experts, then you'll deal with the experts. You've got to submit expert reports, as I've already indicated,
Okay, I have the dates for that.
by July 31st, and those reports need to be in full compliance with Federal Civil Rule 2682B.
Will you certify a record trial the way you did in my last
I'll notify Judge Rakoff when I think discovery is complete. Yeah, that's generally the way we do it.
Judge Fox, have you seen a chat about the
I'm not in a position to answer your questions about my television habits. Do you have any other questions about this litigation?
Yes, Judge Fox. The defendants, according to Mr. Wells, had 8 videotapes of the chat with Glendora. They did not produce them. Those
to admit?
Rule 36.
Notices to admit. The close of fact discovery is June 30th.
I thought that was for this, June 30th, okay.
Is the close of fact discovery. That means if you want notices to admit regarding fact matters, the notice need to be served no later than May 30th so that there's time for compliance before the end of the fact discovery period.
Okay, and what about inspections?
Same thing, that's part of fact discovery. You want it, you demand it, you'll have an opportunity to look at whatever's relevant.
By June 30th.
That's correct, that's the close of fact discovery. Assuming that it's time to demand it.
I want this court to get it straight. This is Glendora versus Malone. It is not Glendora versus Marshall.
Okay, I've already discussed this with you no less than 3 times. Once the case is filed, that's how we carry the case. We know that parties have been added, we know that parties have been removed. We still carry the case on our docket by that name. It doesn't make any difference. We're not making any legal determination in that regard. It's only the way the case is carried.
All right, I ask you, pretty please assure me that you announce the case of Glendora versus Malone.
All right, right now, go outside to the conference room, please. Go through the witness list so that you can come back in when you're done and put on the record those witnesses that are in dispute and any other issues regarding depositions that are in dispute.